Hello, very good morning. Welcome along to Ireland M on Virgin Media One.
Now, today it's Tuesday, the 8th of October. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
As tensions continue to rise in the Middle East, some 33 Irish troops are positioned between Hezbollah and the Israeli Defence Forces. At 7:35, we're going to speak with a former army captain who was stationed in Lebanon to give us an update on what seems like a very frightening situation.
Absolutely, and he can tell us about what it's like with the Lebanese people that you're dealing with in or around the area. Looking forward to that. Now, after visiting the homes of many celebs, have you invited them into your home yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Broadcaster Brendan Courtney is going to show us his new home that's going up at 8:15 this morning.
And he's worked with everyone from Britney Spears to Sylvester Stallone. We're going to chat to the County Down libel lawyer, Paul Tweed, at 9:20.
Fascinating
Man. Yeah,
it
he's
is
brought out a new book.
So fascinating. Yeah. It's really good. He's trying to tackle AI and the big guys,
tech.
Meta and all them now. It's very interesting. Al, he's right over there, but he's with someone today. What's coming up, Al?
Yes, look who's with me this morning. Financial advisor Owen McGee is here, and we're going to be chatting about last week's budget and we're answering some of your questions. So, good morning to you.
Good morning, Al.
Now, what are we going to be chatting about mainly this morning?
We're going to talk about inheritance tax.
Okay.
So this is the tax you pay when you receive a gift, probably from your parents, your auntie, your uncle. And let's just ask people, have they any questions? Maybe about inheritance tax, but maybe in general as well. What other questions have they got about their money?
Any financial woes?
Yes.
You're here to answer those questions. And we'd like to know, do you think inheritance tax should be abolished totally? Because there's some countries that just don't have it, and you're able to receive the gift from your parents or from your loved ones. So let us know, what do you think on that? 0896 111 111. Get your messages in now for Owen, and he'll be with us about 7:15. Yeah, about 7:45. Now, Deric's in Ireland's National Cemetery this morning. Good morning to you, Deric.
Yes, good morning, Al. Well, ahead of our trip to Carlow and Wexford this week for the Opera Festival, of course, kicking off in the sunny southeast. We've landed here in Dublin 9 this morning. Now, a lot of you waking up to plenty of rain right across the west and Midlands through the northeast, and guess what, more of the wet stuff down through parts of the south in across the southeast, and some of that heavy at times as well. So certainly not out of the woods just yet in terms of all those shares. Now, we've landed here in Glasnevin Cemetery, the dead centre of Dublin, so to speak, pardon the pun, and just over our shoulder here you can see the O'Connell Tower. Now, this has been closed for over 40 years. In fact, a bomb rattled it at one stage back in 1971. It's been reopened to the public. It's got 198 steps. We're going to be taking on a tour right up to the tippy top. So God love the cameraman, because we have to get all the gear right up to the very top of it. Bit of a hike ahead.
You're very welcome back now. Coming up after this break, Dublin Airport, the cap is going to limit summer passengers to 25 million people.
That's a lot of people. Should be okay, right? Well, maybe it won't. We'll find out. And is man flu real?
Yes.
We'll find out after the break. Talk to you in a minute. Hello, welcome back. It's time to take a look at this morning's papers. We're going to start with the Irish Times, the headline there. MacDonald orders overhaul of Sinn Féin governance. Sinn Féin leader Mary Lou MacDonald has ordered a complete overhaul of governance procedures within her party after two former party press officers provided references for their ex-colleague Michael McGonigal, who has been convicted of child sex offences.
The Herald goes with teen guilty over steakhouse machine gun. A teenager accused of removing a submachine gun from a steakhouse where gunman Tristan Sherry was killed last Christmas Eve has pleaded guilty to a firearms offence.
The Examiner leads with Israel reckless towards Irish troops. It continues to say that Tánaiste Micheál Martin has accused Israel of endangering the lives of Irish and fellow UNIFIL troops with its reckless behaviour during its advance into Lebanon. We will be speaking about that very shortly.
Harris's emergency meeting with Army Chief over Lebanon. Simon Harris went straight from a phone call with the UN Secretary-General to a meeting with Lieutenant General Sean Clancy to discuss our peacekeeping force with Israeli troops close to the Irish soldiers' position. That's the top story on the Daily Mail.
The Sun leads with, if we resist, they'll kill us. Emily Hand, who is an Irish girl who was kidnapped by Hamas thugs and held for 50 days, has opened up on her terrifying ordeal for the first time.
Ukrainians may seek asylum as benefits cut back, state warned. The government is concerned Ukrainian refugees are applying for international protection because asylum seekers are provided with better state supports. That's the front of the Irish Independent.
The Mirror goes with school bus horror. It states that 4 people were rushed to hospital yesterday after a school bus ploughed into a field and overturned.
Yes, the Star also leads with school bus miracle. Over 40 kids were on a school bus that crashed into a field and flipped over yesterday.
As you will have heard in the news, everyone seems to be fine. 4 people were rushed to hospital after that, but everyone in County Down is all right after
Thankfully,
that.
yeah, frightening. Yes, joining us to discuss the other stories making news today is political correspondent with the Irish Sun, Adam Higgins, and political correspondent for the Irish Daily Mail, Sarah McGuinness. Good morning to you both.
Guys.
Great to have you both with us. Sarah, let's start off with this. Cork City traders, so this is something I'm sure we're going to see all over the country, but in Cork City, the commercial rates are looking like they're going to be increased by 3%, which is going to put even more pressure on businesses in that area.
Yeah. So this is bad news day for businesses, unfortunately, in Cork City Centre. The local authority is looking at hiking commercial rates, which is basically like a property tax that the council takes in. And they're looking at raising those as high as up to 3%, which... it hasn't been confirmed yet, but the fact that they're signalling it is not a great sign. And this is basically because the city is running a €3 million deficit. And we were actually just kind of chatting off air as to there's no further detail in that Irish Examiner article as to why. But, like the local authority would have had to pay lots out in terms of extreme weather events, which we all know Cork has been subject to this year. So it looks like businesses will be asked to kind of foot a lot of money to kind of deal with that. But it comes on the back of a raft of closures, and of course the iconic Lennox Chipper closing last week. And
after 73 years.
Yeah.
And everyone, if you go to Cork, it's like, every town has a chipper, like Donkey Ford's. Lennoxes have been going for so long.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I listened to an interview with the owner last week as well, and the heartbreak of it, because it's been a family business. They lived above the chipper years ago. But just how difficult it is to run a business nowadays. The overheads, the costs of the likes of rates is just extortionate. It just couldn't make ends meet.
No, it is, yeah. So you've had like this range of increases to doing business recently, and businesses have been kicking up about this way before. Like even in the run-up to the budget, they were pushing for some sort of support because they had the minimum wage going up, the auto enrollment pension, that comes in later on this year as well, or next year. And then we have
the increase to the minimum wage.
The minimum wage, the cost of materials and energy themselves are still quite high. So businesses are struggling. You would have seen that there was a report a couple of weeks ago about vacancy rates. So, I mean, people all over the country will know, there's that shop in my town that's empty, that's been empty for a while. And that kind of seems to be increasing because we have about 30,000 businesses now across the country that are empty. So that's, shops in towns and restaurants in towns, things like that are empty. Yeah. And Cork itself has a 12% vacancy rate. So I can't imagine this is going to help tackle that, because that's quite high.
And we'd love to hear from people at home, because I think it's something that I talk about in my hometown Limerick all the time, when there's so many vacant places but so many shopping centres, and it's like, should there be free parking in town to encourage people to come back in? What's going on in your town or your city? Like, do you feel like it's dying and that more and more businesses are closing, but there's plenty of shopping centres? 0896 111 111. We'd love to hear from you, because you see so many empty places in Cork now.
You drive through the west of Ireland, drive through any villages, and it's just painted windows. It's kind of heartbreaking.
And at a time when the country's economy is booming, you'd really think that those businesses and small businesses would benefit from that money being in the economy, but it doesn't seem to be washing through.
One in three vacancy rate in certain areas in the west of Ireland. We'd love to hear from you. 0896 111 111 on that. Let's move on to Dublin Airport. So we've heard Michael O'Leary, we've heard a number of different aviation companies kicking up about this in recent times. So the passenger limit is at 33 million for the year, the cap, but they're wanting to bring in a new cap for summertime for 25.2 million just in the summer. Why?
Yes, so every year the Irish Aviation Authority has to set the amount of flight slots that will be allowed at all the airports in the country, but obviously Dublin Airport is our main airport, so they are kind of allocated the most. And in recent years it hasn't really been as much of an issue, but obviously the population has grown in Ireland itself, and then we've become, like, our economy is growing, more and more people are travelling here, so they have had to kind of limit the number of slots they're allocating for the winter period, which runs from, I think, October to March. It was 13 million this year, 12 or 13 million. And they're limiting the summer period, which is obviously very, very busy for the airport, to 25 million. Now, this all comes back to the issue of the passenger cap, which I'm sure we've all heard a lot about recently. the fact that Dublin Airport can't let more than 32 million people pass through its terminals in order to kind of, it's a planning restriction that dates back to
From a long time
2007.
ago.
Yeah, but from a new runway, from all these things, they had to restrict the passenger numbers, right?
Yeah.
That is why.
Yeah, well, it actually relates back to a traffic restriction. Basically, in
Before the
2007,
M50.
before the M50, in 2007, they were concerned that there would be too much traffic coming into Dublin Airport, so they limit the number of passengers. But then they opened a second runway in Terminal 1, so it makes no sense, and they haven't evaluated it. And anyway, it's causing this big, massive row between the government, airlines, and the DAA who operate Dublin Airport. And airlines are unhappy about this because they're saying, we can't expand, we can't grow, the Irish tourism economy can't grow because you're saying that we can't have more flight slots. And they're putting pressure. And Ryanair has followed the news of the summertime limit with immediate legal action. IAG, who owns Aer Lingus, is threatening the same. So yeah, it's a really messy row.
We're an island. To limit the numbers, does it seem like
it doesn't really seem to make too much sense from if you want to, grow but you have to remember that there's people that live around that airport and everything else, and they have, a right to have a say in this, and that's what that planning process is about. Yeah. But I remember last year the Taoiseach was in Washington and we were over with him covering the trip, and as part of that he was opening a new line, direct flight with JetBlue, this American airline, and one of their executives was there, and we asked, what do you think of the passenger cap? And he said, we could do a hell of a lot more in Ireland if that passenger cap was there.
OK, so there is an argument, and a global talking point is going to become over-tourism, and the fact that countries are becoming too expensive for their citizens because people who have lots of money can travel everywhere, and it's putting up prices all over the place. Then we're talking about the environment last week, from the EPA, the report. It's like, we're not doing very well, lads. Like, these are all things that we have to consider as well, right?
And it's kind of like, I actually kind of think of it like, unfortunately, this is like a bit of a sad comparison, but in the COVID-19 pandemic, at some point we kind of had to choose between, the public health risk and the economic risk. And this is kind of like a dilemma that we're facing as well, because the debate is being weighed. On one side, people primarily concerned about the environment, saying, like, we need to be looking at our aviation as a globe. Yeah. Like, this is one thing that is already in place in Ireland. We don't have to change it. We could leave it there and keep our emissions, our aviation emissions, at a level that we can manage. But then there's the economy angle, where it's kind of like they're arguing, oh, well, we need to expand, we need to be able to grow our economy more. But
that's rough full employment. How much more do they want to grow?
It's tourism. So we're talking about the west of Ireland. We're talking about air vacancy rate. Tourism is a huge driver of that, and people can't commit
to the making Ireland
on that emissions part of it as well. Though, I mean, it's keeping that cap in place, say, as a temporary measure maybe to keep emissions down, because we know, like, I mean, Eamon Ryan went in for a meeting last year with, or maybe it was earlier this year, with Michael O'Leary, and came out of it very positive about Ryanair's changes to make their jet fuel more carbon efficient. Yeah. So, I mean, there is new technology coming on stream that will reduce those emissions.
Love to hear from you in relation to this if you live in and around Dublin Airport. If you have an interest in this, 0896 111 111. When it comes to the passenger cap, they're saying it's going to have to be 25.2 million, which is a lot of people
there you have
next
it.
year.
Breaking news. Man flu is real. Adam, I'm coming to you on this one. You'll agree with me.
100%. I'm with you all the way. Yeah.
And this is a study. So there you have it.
And if it's a study.
I loved how they didn't say if it was a man or a woman who commissioned the study.
What's happened? What are they saying?
So there's research now that shows that men do have weaker immune systems, and they're more prevalent to catching respiratory viruses and things like that over the winter. So basically, man flu is real.
Immunologically inferior is a hilarious phrase that they've used.
You take that, and we take that. We're allowed to complain a little bit more.
No, but actually the reason that they're kind of citing is that women have to build up their immune systems, or like they're kind of wired to build up their immune systems to protect themselves from viruses, because if they are ever pregnant, that it would protect the baby. So I'm kind of like, dear Lord.
What else? But also we run at a different temperature to men. Like,
we
do,
we're
always cold. There's all these kind of things. So we're
also a lot more forgetful. We don't bring our jacket with us.
No, umbrella, not a thing.
Walking around with shorts all year round.
Had to chill.
OK, so this is a study to say that scientifically in a story with the BMJ, British Medical Journal, that men struggle with colds more than women do.
It also said that sociologically men also be better primed to speak out about feeling sick because women are taught that their needs are less important. So when you say something, you're allowed, but we're not allowed. We're just put up with it, essentially. What do you think, man flu? Is it real? If your fella gets it, how much does he complain? 0896 111
Do you get any sympathy? Listen, Adam Higgins from the Irish Sun, Sarah McGuinness from the Daily Mail, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. Cheers. Alan, what do we have coming up next?
Thanks, Mira. Now coming up, having served in Lebanon as part of the Irish Army, Senator Tom Clonan explains the current situation for troops in the Lebanon. And financial advisor Owen McGee clarifies the new changes in inheritance tax and what they mean for you. So if you have any questions on that, let us know. 0896 111 111. We'll see you after this quick break.
Welcome back. Now, the Israeli military have requested that 33 Irish peacekeeping troops in Lebanon be withdrawn from a base close to the border as they continue their ground invasion into Lebanon. However, UNIFIL, who run this operation, have decided to not comply with this request and keep the troops in place.
Joining us to discuss further is security analyst and retired Irish Army Captain Senator Tom Clonan. Good morning to you, Tom.
Morning.
Great to have you with us. A frightening situation that is going on over there at the minute. Can you give us an idea of what these 33 Irish peacekeeping troops are doing in Lebanon and how long they've been there?
Yeah, so basically the Irish have been there in considerable numbers for about 50 years, since the mid-70s. And essentially, as today and always, we're effectively human shields to protect the civilian population in Lebanon between Hezbollah on the one hand and then the Israeli Defence Forces on the other. So now, as has happened a few times previously, the Israelis have come in on the ground. They're advancing north of our positions and through our positions. So it's a very, very dangerous moment because this is where you're going to have clashes between Hezbollah and the Israeli Defence Forces. In the past, I'm sorry to say, both the Israelis and Hezbollah have deliberately targeted UN peacekeepers and Irish troops in particular. So recently we had the murder of Private Sean Rooney by Hezbollah. But why? I would say in our time there, 50% of our casualties have been inflicted on us by the Israelis or their paramilitary proxies, and the other 50% by Islamic resistance groups such as Hezbollah. And it's literally because we're physically there as that, if you like, human shield between them and the civilian population. And that's the protection of civilians. Is a very important component of UN Security Council Resolution 1701. That's why we're there, is to try and save life.
And I'm sure that for the parents of Sean Rooney, you know, who died 2 years ago in that bombing when they were driving along, that it's very hard for them to see what's happening, as it is with so many other parents whose kids are there, because it's more than 33 peacekeepers, right? The 33 peacekeepers are in one area, but there's more Irish troops there than that.
So for the viewers, we have our camp battalion headquarters. So it's a mechanised infantry battalion. They've got very, very good equipment. They're very, very well trained. They have a Polish mechanised infantry company mixed in with them. You've got battalion headquarters at a place near a village called Bin Jabal, Camp Shamrock. But then you have this Irish position 652, which is near a little village called Maroun al-Raz, right on the border with Israel. And, you know, the families of these young men and women at home, this is exquisitely painful for them. Yeah. They're absolutely terrified. And also, we have a rotation due. So we have another 300 or so troops who are training and getting ready to go out and replace them. I think it's unlikely in the current circumstances that rotation will go as planned. Now, there has been no confirmation of that, but I think given the situation being so difficult, and it happened when I was there, because of Israeli actions, we were unable to do the rotation. It was slightly delayed. But I would say to families, that is because the priority is the safety of our troops, force protection, and to ensure that when they are on the move, and they will be on the move eventually, that it is done in the safest possible way.
The IDF have requested that these peacekeepers leave the area, but UNIFIL have decided that they'll stay. Why?
So the force has 10,000 troops. We've got over 1,000 Italian troops, there's Spanish troops, German troops. So we're part of a big multinational contingent. the Irish can't be either requested, and that's not a request, that's a direction to evacuate. The Israelis have said the same to Lebanese civilians. They've actually forcibly moved and displaced people from their homes, as they did when I was there, and anybody who's left behind. And you'll have disabled citizens, you'll have elderly people, lots of young women trying to nurse little babies, trying to get water to stay hydrated, to breastfeed their babies. They're the kinds of people that are trapped in the villages. And the Israelis do not distinguish between innocent Lebanese civilians and Hezbollah. They don't distinguish between innocent civilian objects, houses, schools, and Hezbollah targets, and nor will they distinguish between them and...
So should they not move then?
Well, the thing is...
they know they're not going to... They've requested them to move. If you don't, you know what's coming.
So there's a tension there in that if we leave, there'll be whole-scale slaughter. If we stay, we can't stop the killing, but it will have an impact on what the Israelis are prepared to do. Like in Gaza, one of the problems that the West had was we had no journalists in there, just apart from very brave local Gaza and Palestinian journalists who were slaughtered. We had no international presence. We are the eyes and ears of the international community, and this is difficult. But we've been here before. This happened when I was there. We were under fire for a prolonged period of time, and we couldn't stop the killing, but we did prevent whole-scale slaughter. So it saved life.
But this was in
That's what we're about.
This was in 1996 when you were there, and there was a ground invasion by Israeli troops into Lebanon, into where you were in and around Camp Shamrock.
So no, what happened was they declared a punitive operation against South Lebanon. So essentially they saturated the area with helicopter gunship attacks, missile attacks, artillery, just completely...
They killed loads of people.
And they massacred. Now, one of the things that we did in that scenario was, which speaks to your point about why should we stay there, we took over 100 local men, women and children onto our UN position at Al Yatun and gave them our water. And like the guys and girls at the moment, we were running out of water, running out of food. But we brought them in and shared what we had with them and our little bits of medical assistance. Our neighbouring UN position did the same thing, but they were targeted by the Israelis and they murdered 106 Lebanese civilians on their position and a number of peacekeepers. So it is a very difficult position, but the eyes of the international community are on them. There are lots of nationalities involved here, not just Ireland. And I would say to the families that I know there's tension between the Irish government and the Israeli government diplomatically, politically, but there is good communication on the ground between the Irish and their Israeli counterparts, and there is good communication between the Irish and Hezbollah. Now, it is a very fluid and dynamic situation, but I would say to families that the full focus here is to get our people out of there at a certain point to a position where they can continue to monitor and observe, but where there is less exposure to risk.
Is this what these Irish soldiers have trained for?
Yeah, so our troops, and I mean, I was there 30 years ago.
Are they kind of like, because they're so inferior to the IDF?
No, that's not it. Like our troops, now I was there 30 years ago, our troops are trained to such a high standard now.
Yeah.
So the training that our troops undergo is standardised throughout NATO. And it's actually, as part of our membership of Partnership for Peace, our training is supervised and overseen and evaluated by external and NATO oversight. So our people are trained to the exact same standards, if you like, of their IDF counterparts.
Yeah.
They have very, very good equipment. It's a mechanised infantry battalion in terms of weapon systems, in terms of personal equipment like flak jackets and helmets. But the point is that the mission, if you like, the rules of engagement for the mission don't allow our troops to behave, to use the disinhibited use of force that the Israelis do. It's not that the Israelis... It's not that the Israelis are any better. It's just that they have abandoned the laws of armed conflict.
But once you're in conflict, can they not? Those laws are gone, no?
So our troops can...
It's a bit unfair.
Our troops... Well, that's the UN Security Council resolution, and that's the rules-based order that we all subscribe to. But what the Israelis have done in Gaza, and as they are doing in Lebanon at the moment, is that they have abandoned the laws of armed conflict. They've abandoned Geneva Conventions, and they use force in a way that is illegal and unlawful. So, for example, they move forward, reconnaissance by fire, They open fire on everything in front of them. They kill children. They've killed 17,000 girls and children in Gaza in the last 12 months. They have already killed 2,000 Lebanese, mostly civilians, in the last couple of weeks. So it's not that they're any better. They are completely out of control.
Yeah.
And that's what our
They're
people
not going to care if
trying
there's
to
a blue
condemn.
beret on, are they?
No,
like, that's the thing. They don't care anymore.
And that's why our people in Camp Shamrock, they report back to United Nations headquarters in Naqoura, which is on the border with Israel, UN New York, but also back to our own Defence Forces headquarters here. And every effort has been made that in this really volatile position, that we do everything to protect our people. And we've been here before. Yeah. The guys and girls are this is what they're trained for. Yeah. And I would say to the families, you know, we hope for the best.
Absolutely. Yeah, frightening situation, absolutely. But they are there along with so many other countries, so it looks like they probably won't be withdrawn. Senator Tom Clonan, security analyst, retired Irish Army captain with experience over there as well. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Tom. We really appreciate it.
Time for a quick break. We'll be back in a minute. You're very welcome back. Now, when Budget 2025 was announced last week, the government set out changes to capital acquisitions tax or inheritance. Sorry, just inheritance tax for the first time in 5 years.
Yes, and joining us now to explain what this means to your inheritance is financial advisor Owen McGee. Good morning to you, Owen.
Hey, Owen.
So,
good morning.
In case people missed it, what were the changes in the budget?
So up to now, let's just take the parent to child. Up to now, your parents can give you €335,000 in your lifetime before you start to pay tax. Now, that's just called gifts, because paying for your bread and milk when you were 7 doesn't come out of that 335. Paying for your education, paying for your college doesn't come out of that 335. It's the
money they leave you in the will.
Yeah, but it could be a gift along the way. So, for example, they can make a reasonable contribution to your wedding. I don't know what reasonable is, but reasonable contribution to your wedding. But if they gave you a gift for a deposit for a house, for example, that would come out of the 335. Now, what happened in the budget last week is the threshold has moved from 335 to 400,000. Okay.
Can I just ask you there, how would the taxman know that they gave you a contribution to your house?
This is a question I get asked all of the time, right? So really what it comes down to is at some stage, you as a child is going to be sitting in the solicitor's office and they're going to be distributing the estate. And they're going to ask you a question that says, have you ever got a gift from your parents before? And they might even say to you, what's this transaction here? And interestingly, there's an onus on the solicitor to make sure they get it right so it doesn't come back at them. And that's really what it comes down. And what I would say to people is the rules, the tax laws are there. You can try and work your way around them and it might haunt you forever. You may never get caught, but they're the rules. Yeah. And at some stage, when you're probably in a very bad place emotionally, a solicitor's going to be grilling you about any gifts you may have got in the past.
OK, so it's
and
risen
it's wrong, Alan.
from 330 grand up to 400,000.
Yes.
It comes in on the 1st of January, this rise.
Yes.
We have a question in from somebody here who's sadly, sorry to hear this, that their father passed away last March, but that the probate is not done yet. So would they be able to get the inheritance,
the new rate,
at the higher rate
before January?
So the ruling is, and when you look at Revenue's website, they thankfully, or not thankfully, but very unuseful for all the rest of us, they say usually it's the date of death that applies. Now, I would say in 99% of cases, you're going to be the date of death is the date that you make the calculation on for capital acquisitions tax. What I would say, though, in general, that person, unfortunately, I'm sorry to hear they've lost their father, but to me, I would say it's going to be last March, this date, and the capital acquisition on those dates. But let's say, Tommy or Alan, you were in a position before that you were given €335,000 from your parents and you've used up the threshold. And some people do that while they're alive. I'm going to give them the maximum and it's now gone up to 400. On the 1st of January, you could now get another €65,000 to bring you up to the 400. So it's slightly different during life as opposed to death.
So can your parents give you that money now without you paying tax?
Yes.
So they can give you up to from the 1st of January.
Yes.
Your parents can give you, is this a single person So,
Yes.
like, they could leave 400,000 to each of their children.
Each of their children. And but the important thing is as the child, it's a total of 400,000 from your parents. It's not 400 from mommy and 400 from daddy.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
But they can give you 400,000 to each of their children, and you don't have to pay any tax on that.
If you're getting the full 400,000, you do need to report it to revenue, even though you don't have any tax to pay. You still have to tell revenue you got it.
Is it fair? Because I was listening to a news talk last week, former Minister Alan Shatter was on talking about abolishing inheritance tax. That this is a tax, it's an unfair tax. People have already paid tax on their house, on their business, on everything else. So for the government to come along and slap 33% on everything over 400% or 400,000, he thinks it's not fair and that it should be abolished, that there's 9 other EU countries have gotten rid of it.
I don't think it's fair. Like, I think it's money that you've already paid tax on, and you're just because you've died or just because you're passing on to the next generation. There's 9 other EU countries. It doesn't exist in Australia. You can get, I think it's 12 million in the US before you start to pay tax. I don't think it's fair. And let's be honest, we were up at 542,000 euros was the gift. That was the threshold back in 2009. Global financial crisis hit, and it came right the way down. And every government has says we're going to keep increasing it. But they do get, the last time I checked, I'm slightly out of date with this, they do get somewhere around 400 or 500 million a year off this.
So 500 million comes in.
Yeah.
So they're not going to scrap that anytime soon.
They're not going to scrap. But also,
when you slapped on the money on the mansion tax and everything else as well.
Yeah, but it's moving the deck chairs around. And why did it happen now, I suppose, is another question. Because let's face it, we're about to face an election, and you've got people like Alan Shatter who have had meetings with the public in recent times in certain hotels around Dublin where they talked about this and they wanted to get rid of this. Yeah. And it is a situation where people who get hit with this are at an emotionally difficult time and they're hardly going to take to the streets.
We'd love to know at home what you make of it. Do you think that inheritance tax, do you think it's a fair tax? Would you like to see it being abolished, or do you think it should absolutely be there if it's bringing in 400 or 500 million? 0896 111 111.
Does everybody, like, if the couple are unmarried or any like that, does that
massive problem? So from a tax perspective,
so if you're unmarried and you have children, what's the problem there?
Your problem there is you're strangers from the taxman's perspective. So if you're unmarried, even particularly, there's an exemption if it's your own home that you're being gifted from somebody else, right? That's your home. But in the first 3 years of, say, you hook up with somebody, you buy a house together, you're not married, and one of you dies in the first 3 years. And let's say the house is worth 400,000 euros. The 200,000 that they own, assume the mortgage gets cleared off with the life cover, the 200,000 that they own is seen as a gift to you. And you could be hit for tax on that. Now, if you do it properly and you get some good advice...
But is it not part of the tax here?
No, because that's 400,000 from your parents, right? But from a stranger, it's 16,250 going to 20,000.
It's your partner.
But it's even, and this is where it really frustrates me, because even though it's what they call a durable relationship, right? The problem with it is the taxman ignores it because you're not married. Now, the taxman in other circumstances decides not to ignore it.
Can I ask you we have another viewer's question in quickly. Just a long-term foster son, can they inherit?
Yes, and it's the same threshold. In most circumstances, it's the same threshold. It used to be, before 2023, it was that the foster child had to live with that parent for 5 years or more, but it's changed since 2023. So the answer to that question in simple terms is yes.
And it is something that can be a massive topic of fighting within families as well. So I presume from your point of view, it's important to talk about it.
Fighting within families is a big thing, and that actually leads me into something else. We have a new TV show coming out in RTE called The Complaints Bureau, Series 2 of it, and we're looking for people, not fighting within families, but if you're fighting with a company and you want to get your complaints dealt with by a team of top journalists, send your query to consumer@indiepix.ie.
Consumer@indiepix.ie.
Mickey, very interesting. Thank you so much. If you have any questions about inheritance tax, we'd love to hear from them. 0896 111 111.
See you after this short break.
It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We're going to start with the Irish Times. The headline there, McDonald orders overhaul of Sinn Féin governments. governance. Sinn Féin leader Mary Lou McDonald has ordered a complete overhaul of governance procedures within her party after two former party press officers provided references for their ex-colleague Michael McGonigal, who has been convicted of child sex offences.
The Herald goes with teen guilty over steakhouse machine gun. A teenager accused of removing a submachine gun from a steakhouse where gunman Tristan Sherry was killed last Christmas Eve has pleaded guilty to a firearms offence.
The Examiner's front page, Israel reckless towards Irish troops. It continues by saying that Tánaiste Micheál Martin has accused Israel of endangering the lives of Irish and fellow UNIFIL troops with its reckless behaviour during its advance into Lebanon.
Harris's emergency meeting with Army Chief over Lebanon. Simon Harris went straight from a phone call with the UN Security General to a meeting with Lieutenant General Sean Clancy to discuss our peacekeeping force with Israeli troops close to the Irish soldiers' position. That's the top story in the Daily Mail.
The Sun, it leads with, if we resist, they'll kill us. Emily Hand, an Irish girl kidnapped by Hamas and held for 50 days, has opened up on her terrifying ordeal for the first time.
Ukrainians may seek asylum as benefits cut back, a state warned. The government is concerned Ukrainian refugees are applying for international protection because asylum seekers are provided with better state supports. That's the front of the Irish Independent.
The Mayor goes with school bus horror. It states that children were rushed to hospital yesterday after a school bus ploughed into a field and overturned.
And the Star also leads with school bus miracle. Over 40 kids were on a school bus that crashed into a field and flipped over yesterday. That was up in County Down, and thankfully all the school kids are all okay. Very, very scary.
Lots of texts coming in from you this morning, and we were talking about the Dublin Airport cap for next year, for next summer, has been set at 25.2 million. And of course, Ryanair, Aer Lingus, everyone's up at arms over this. But Hilary says there's more than one airport in the country, more flights to Knock and other airports, and could pick up the slack. And I sort of agree with that because, I mean, if Aer Lingus or other airlines start using Shannon more for the transatlantic, where you could fly from the US straight to Shannon, direct, I think it would help. Look, we get a lot of...
If you're living in America, you're like, I'm flying to Dublin.
But a lot of Americans come here and they go straight to the west of Ireland. They go to Kerry, they go to Galway.
They're getting helicopters down to Adair Manor from
Dublin. It's like when you go to Ryanair and you want to fly to Paris, but you have to fly some flipping airport about 3 hours away. And you're like, well, that's not where I want to go, is
that's
it?
3 hours.
Exactly. But I mean,
but that's if you're going to Paris,
who was the politician who said that?
But you're still flying to Paris. But I mean, look,
they want to go to Dublin.
But if we had more flights, direct flights to Shannon to be used, Shannon's a great airport.
Should do. I mean, it should do. Listen, and I'm all for spreading it out, but at the same time, we are an island. We should still be.
But they don't have a clue about Ireland. If you just say, "Oh, you're going to Kerry, we'll get you to a closer airport." Do you know what I mean? They don't have the clue of our geography.
They want to go to the Ring of Kerry. They want to go to Galway. They want to see that and do that
and go down to Farnborough. But they'd have some.
Oh my God, Farnborough's the best airport.
Big American Airlines landing in there.
I can't see them landing in Farnborough.
We're also talking about man flu, how it is actually real, and that's according to a proper study. There you have it. Abby said, "I have a new baby at home, and I had a horrendous 36 hours labour. When I came home from hospital with the baby, I got really bad chest infection and lost my voice." Sorry to hear that. Very difficult to be up all night with a newborn.
I know.
But thankfully your husband felt her pain. But my poor husband had man flu. There you have it. He couldn't get up to help as he was so tired and apparently in worse shape than me. And she'd just given birth. Well, listen, man flu, it's pretty serious.
Now, it's proven, isn't it? This is a medical thing, and it's been proven.
It's also proven that men complain more than women because we're told to just shut up and get on with it.
That's not proven.
That's not proven.
The
man flu is proven, not the complaining.
No, that's not an opinion. It's not colloquial. They'll sit down and they'll put the same things will happen, and men will complain more than women. It's a study. Studies are done.
It was down to the X chromosomes, and if you had double X chromosomes, which women have, it gives you more Science says that you're better. Better.
I think women have had it so much easier throughout times.
Do you think we moan?
Yes.
Never.
Yes. You go to the doctor every 5 minutes.
That's not moaning. That's just being a hypochondriac.
I have to go to the doctor today.
About inheritance tax.
I'm just going to the doctor.
Inheritance tax, we were talking about that. Aoife says, I think inheritance tax is extremely unfair. My parents worked so hard to build everything we have, and ultimately I have to sell the property to pay the inheritance tax. There you go. So we asked, should it be abolished or not?
Declan says, my house is worth around €750,000. I've got one grown-up child. When I die, she'll pay 33% tax on at least €350,000. That's a six-figure sum. That's before you factor in any other property and cash that I might pass on. She'll have to remortgage the family home just to keep it. I'm not rich. I've worked as a teacher all my life, and this is my only property. She will pay through the nose just because I didn't blow all my money. The house will be worth more than that by then. Like 750 grand?
There you go. Is that fair?
It'll be over €1 million house.
But
it will appreciate in value.
Owen was saying you can make gifts throughout your lifetime.
But it still totals up to the 400,000.
Some of it wouldn't.
No, some of it wouldn't.
Some of it
Well,
wouldn't.
you can pay up a certain amount.
Like on weddings, on things like that, you can.
You can't. That's a gift, Al.
No, you said you can.
Let us know. We'll get Owen back.
McGee, come back.
0896 111. No, it's not. It's a wedding, everything like that. Coming up after the break, fashion expert and broadcaster Brendan Courtney is going to break down inheritance tax. Now, we're going to speak to him about his new series and why he is supporting Focus Ireland.
We'll see you very shortly on Ireland Day. He always has to say something just before we come back on. Our next guest, he goes by many titles, from broadcaster to podcaster to fashion icon.
Fashion icon. Icon. We can only whisper it. It can only be one man. Please welcome Brendan Courtney. Good morning to you, Brendan.
Guys, great to see you.
Great to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
Listen, you're a busy man as ever.
Yeah.
But back filming Keys to My Life.
Yes.
Again, new season. Exciting. Get back into it again.
Yeah, it's so different to this. It's a documentary. Each episode is a documentary about people's lives. So it takes about a week to do half an hour of television. You know, it's none of this 3 hours live and done. You know, we're very. It's a process.
Yeah.
So I've learned patience on it, because I have to guide the people and go, sorry, we're doing it again, but just we want to get an aerial shot now. We want to do that. So it takes a long, long time, but I skip into work now. You get to an age where you start to feel very grateful that you're still working. Yeah.
But there's something, because you're, the creator of things like Wanderlust, which I will always love until the day I
must have been in nappies.
Oh my God, it's such a good show. It was like, what is happening? This life is amazing. And Keys to My Life. But when you first started, I remember chatting to you and you were like, oh God, yeah, we're banging the keyboard trying to get people involved. Now people are like, I want to do a stroll down memory lane.
Yeah.
Because it is looking back at people's houses where they live.
So I have this kind of cheesy observation that people who want to do Keys to My Life are people who've made peace with the past. So they're past a certain stage. So they could have had, a difficult divorce or an illness in the family or a loss, a big loss. And so they're always in it. Oh, there's Christy.
Yeah, bless them.
He was amazing. Oh, so funny. But they've come to terms with what their life has been, and they're very happy to look back. And they're very moved, but they're not really upset. And younger people aren't there yet. Often I find there's just been that's an anecdotal. There's no data behind that.
Yeah.
But what we found, this is season 5. Mm-hmm. Thank you, the telly gods. This is season 5. People have kind of come to us now because they know it's an homage. We're not going to be in any way mean to them. You know, it's like this show.
There we go.
Different to politicians. You're not so nice to them.
We're very nice to politicians.
Oh, yeah, we are always, and we love to have them in always as well. It's a wonderful show. It's got, I don't know, the nostalgia of owning your own home and memories of growing up is just always going to touch on the heartstrings as well. You are in the process of buying your own home.
Yep.
It's also touching on the heartstrings, but also people are fascinated by sharing online, the actually buying, building, renovating process.
I'm really taken aback at how fascinated people are. Look, Cheap Irish Homes beat the Late Late Show last week. We are fascinated with homes.
Isn't that
We're Irish as I don't know, maybe it's because of our legacy of not owning our own land, but we are all, and we're nosy. So add that in. It's fascinated by homes. And we're, like I always say to my American friends, don't confuse Irish people's friendliness for friendliness. They're just nosy. Where are you from? What the father do? What do you do?
Very true.
We're nosy. So we love a look around other people's houses. It's my favourite thing.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, like I'm bet into it. Genuinely.
My renovation. So
yes,
my renovation.
every day I'm like...
So a woman nearly caused a pile-up on the quays the other day. A very nice woman who I now befriended on Instagram. Hi, if you're watching. And she pulled the car over on the middle of the quays and said, what colour windows did you go for? I was like, you're crazy, grey.
Because they want to be happy for you as well, but also...
That's kind, yeah.
But right now, I suppose you're in a situation where so many people can't get a home.
Well, that's it.
And are very genuinely happy for people who have one and are getting to fulfill this sort of fantasy that people
And
have.
I think because of the line of work I do and my background, people are expecting me probably to have a huge home, and it's a very small home. It's 700 square feet. It's modest, very modest.
Yeah.
You know, typical 80s bungalow, and you know, it had all its bad finishes and all the stuff, and so it needed a lot of TLC. And I think actually what got people really engaged with it was it's accessible. It was very affordable. It wasn't massively expensive, but it is in Wicklow. It's not in the capital. It's not where I work. It's, you know, if you had kids, it would probably be a challenge. You'd have to uproot, move schools, all that stuff. That's not that easy to do. But what people have to do if they want to think about theirs, oh, look at it. I've completely redesigned the inside, which was a great process. And that's the other thing that Irish people love, the idea of it being able to mould the house to where you want it to be.
Yeah.
Now, I really was disappointed that I didn't have the budget to extend, so I could only reimagine the interior. So it's on a hill, you see, it has a sea view. That's another big thing.
Wow.
But the back garden needs to be piled. Look at this dog.
That's not the
Nancy
sea view.
Drew.
No, that's
No,
Nancy.
Nancy.
The back needs to be piled, which means it's a very expensive process because it's on a hill.
Yeah.
So that's going to wait. That's a few years away.
But because, and also we're kind of, it's like, what's he doing? I'll just do that.
Yeah.
Do you know, you're giving people ideas.
Yeah. Well, if you ever on Instagram, you ask people any tips for New York, your feed explodes,
100%.
right? We love helping. We love giving tips.
Why is it so important to own your own home? You've said that it means so much to actually have your own place.
I actually found myself homeless in London, would you believe, in 2005 or 6. Went through a very 30-something breakup, very dramatic, stormed out, not coming back. Checked into a hotel with all I owned in the world, which was 2 checky bags in a suitcase. You know, do you remember those big checky bags? We used to move things around it. And then IKEA gave us those big bags, you know. But before IKEA bags, it was checky bags. And I checked in, of course, into the Soho Hotel, which I think was like massively expensive at the time. It was like £300 a night. And my card maxed after 2 days. And it was literally like a movie. Knock, knock. I'm sorry, sir, your card is maxed. You have to check out now. And I was like, oh, I didn't know where to go. And I was telling somebody the story years later, and I was like, that was a brush with homelessness. Now, I rang my friend John, who's still one of my best friends, and pitched to him to rent his room. And he's like, I don't know, we'll probably kill each other. And I was like, I'm kind of desperate. I need to live somewhere. And only years later, I thought, you know, if I had gone on the tear or just ignored it, or, you know, I even remember thinking, Soho Park's not that uncomfortable. It's summer. I might be okay. Like, just... But knew I could come to my parents. I knew I had options. I wasn't fundamentally excluded, but I would have to get on a flight, leave my life. And I was doing a TV show at the time. I was doing a late-night dating show on ITV, so I had a job.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I had a brush with it. And only sort of when I realised what was actually happening, I got really panicked by that. You know, afterwards, the trauma of that feeling of like, oh my God, that was so vulnerable.
But I think we realise with the homeless crisis in this country of over 14,000 people, 15,000, approaching 15,000 now, homeless people, including how many children?
And of that...
How closely
nearly 3,000 families, and of that, nearly 4,500 children now go to school, and if someone says, where do you live? They say, nowhere.
Nowhere.
Wow.
And
imagine being the little kid that goes into school and the shame you'd feel, or the embarrassment. That's because that's what you feel as a kid. You have very simple emotions.
And all the wealth in the country.
Never even thought of that.
And
it just breaks your heart, doesn't it?
You're always involved with the Sleepout campaign with Focus Ireland.
This is my second year as ambassador, but I know Sister Stan, who started Focus Ireland. I was a researcher on Daytime in Open House in 1997, I think, and I was her researcher, and she walked into the green room, and there was a light behind her. I fell in love with her. So there's nothing you wouldn't do for Sister Stan. And they're now a housing authority. Focus Ireland now building houses and apartments. It's just beggars belief. But look, we're here to raise money. We're going for 1.4 million. If the sleepouts this Friday, it's super easy. Just go to shinealight.focusIreland.ie and you can donate, or you can organise your own sleepout. And like, I have my niece doing it in the sitting room with her friends. And you know what they do? They talk about families who are homeless.
Amazing.
And it creates massive awareness. It's an awareness piece, really, but we're going for 1.4 million. And I have to say, it's proudly supported by Bord Gáis Energy, who have been amazing. They're this driving force behind it, who give us kind of legs to really push it. I'm going to sleep on the roof of the building again.
Oh,
with
yeah,
the
you
dog.
did that last year. Nancy's always there with you, isn't she?
She bailed it.
Oh, did she?
She is a literal bitch. She bailed it. She was like, I'm out of here, dude. Like, she went back down. She lasted about 20 minutes.
There you go.
No way.
Nancy, shine a light.
Oh, my God, Nancy.
Well, listen, fair play to you. Trying to raise 1.4 million, that is just incredible. Shine a light. It is this weekend, October the 11th.
Yeah.
Do check it out. I mean, gee, whenever you think about 4,000 kids in Ireland, actually, when they're asking, where do you live? Nowhere. My goodness, that is frightening,
And
isn't
all
it?
the money that's raised goes to helping those families.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And as you said, your niece is doing it inside in her sitting room. Some might be allowed in a tent outside
In the tent in the back garden, good crack. We used to do that when we were kids.
Yeah, might be good.
amazing.
That was our holiday.
You can donate on the Focus Ireland website if you'd like as well. Brendan Courtney.
Always a pleasure.
As
Thank you,
always,
guys.
thank
Thanks,
you so
Brendan.
much for
Great
coming
to
in.
And I
see
love
you.
this show, by the way.
Yeah.
It's great.
Thank you.
guys.
Much
Thank you so much.
appreciated.
Great to have you in.
Now, we've a lovely hearty breakfast with some autumn flavours. That's what we need this morning.
I love getting breakfast on this show. It
Yeah,
doesn't
for
happen
a
too
change.
often. Paul Knapp, what are we having this morning? Good
So we're
morning.
going to pimp up our porridge, making posh porridge. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a baked cherry oatmeal with some caramelised walnuts on top of it. And we're going
Wow.
to serve that with a little bit of cream. So instead of like your overnight oats or just your regular porridge, we're just going to kind of just like make it a little bit kind of spice it up and stuff like that. So it's really, really easy and really, really simple to do.
Taking the goodness out of it now when you're adding so much stuff into it?
Absolutely no. Listen, of course, it's a little bit decadent with some of the stuff we're putting in,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, but it's just that little
nicer,
treat, that
yeah.
autumnal treat. All of the ingredients and the recipes up on Dial and socials, as well as the Virgin Media One's website, OK? So what we're going to do is we're going to caramelise some walnuts. So I've got a knob of butter goes into there, and I'm going to put in 60 grams of chopped walnuts, OK? And I'm going to put in there about 20 grams of a dark brown sugar. So what we're going to do is just going to start that caramelisation process going, because what we do is near the end of the cooking process of the porridge, we just chuck these on and it gets nice and crispy and crunchy on the top of that, OK? So that's just our walnuts, what we're just going to leave to caramelise this there.
Right.
So leave those on to a medium-high heat, around about 2 minutes. Every so often, just give them a little shimmy and they'll be happy out, like, do you know what I mean? Little shimmy and off they go. OK, so what we got is we've got cherries, we've got oats, and then we've got the wet stuff as well, OK? So there's kind of three components of the ingredients. So what I've got is I've got 250 grams of cherries. Now, I've used...
my porridge in the morning, I tell you. Right, yeah.
I've got 250 grams of cherries. So half the cherries I'm going to take and I'm going to put on the bottom of the dish, OK? So the way I kind of think about it is that when you dig into this, you want to make sure that you get kind of a bit of cherry, you get a bit of oat as well and stuff like that.
Then some at the top as well.
Absolutely, and some on the top to finish that off, all right? So what we've got is the dry stuff. So I've got 175 grams of porridge oats goes into there. Going to put a little pinch of salt goes in there as well, like so. And then the kind of those are autumnal spices. So what I've got in there is 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, OK? And I've got a little pinch of nutmeg in there as well, about 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. And because this is kind of going to be baked, there's going to be a little rise on it. I'm putting in a teaspoon of baking powder goes in there as well. So that's the dry stuff, OK? So what I'm going to do is just give that a little mix together.
Why would you put the baking powder in
Just to
there?
give it, it just gives it a little
is going
rise.
to
It
go
just
in the
pops it
oven.
up a little bit, so it's
Just
not too
rise
dense.
a little
So
bit.
just
Why would you want it to rise, though?
Just so it's not too dense and just too.
Oh,
that's
okay.
all.
Put a bit
It's
of air in
cookery
it.
slot, and I'm doing it.
Okay,
OK,
sorry, I know.
Yes, you want to.
Hold up a minute.
Let the chef speak.
Just asking why.
That's why, 'cause it gives it a little rise, OK?
Yeah, OK.
All right, no worries at all. So then all we're going to do is we're going to put this mixture on top of the cherries, OK? So just give these a little check just to make sure everything's happening. Turn that up a little bit like so. Also as well, I just want to give a shout out to my partner, Catherine. It's her birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday.
We won't ask her age.
No, well, she's 27.
OK, very good, yeah.
So she's been 27 for quite a while now, but she's... I'm not going to go home. No, yeah, so just wish her a happy birthday, darling.
Oh, very good. Does she get these pimped up porridge oats as well
Every morning,
sometimes?
every
Very
morning in
good.
the uniform, off we go, happy days.
Oh, yes,
all right?
the fireman outfit.
I've still got it.
I love that.
She gets a big surprise.
OK, let's put the oats on top of the cherries. All right, so what we've done is we put those on top of there like that, all right?
Right.
And we're going to take the rest of these and we're just going to take these and we're going to put them on the top as well. So, like, the bottom ones you won't see, but you want to make sure you do get, like, a mouthful of the cherries when you dish it up.
OK.
The top ones are the ones you're going to see, so they want to be slightly decorative
Is
as
there
well.
anything you could put on instead of cherry? Could you do blueberries or anything? Does it
Absolutely.
matter?
No, it's just a fruit.
OK.
So you could use
Yeah,
any kind of
whatever.
like, fruit. You could put blackberries on there as well. You could put
course.
blueberries, raspberries, whatever you
OK.
want to do. It's just that we just said we'd just do cherries because sometimes we don't I don't use a lot of cherries.
No.
So I said, you know what we'll do? We'll stick them in there.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, OK.
Seldom see cherries here.
OK, now we're going to do is the wet stuff, all right? So I've got 330 mils of a plant-based milk. So that's an oat milk, the one without any sugar. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of like just infuse that with a few bits and pieces.
Right.
So we've got 70 mils of maple syrup. That just goes in there like so. So it's just going to sweeten that up. Then what we're going to add into there as well is a teaspoon of vanilla essence goes in there as well. So I love like vanilla essence and stuff like that.
What? This is very fancy porridge,
Very
isn't it?
fancy porridge. There's a lot of stuff in it now.
Yeah, but it's really easy to do, like, do you know what I mean? From
It's
start
easy
to finish.
to do, but if you had everything...
And you'd need some time. I mean, there's no morning rush making this
Do you know
in
what
the
to
morning.
do? Is
Make it the night before, would you?
Absolutely. Well, we're not on the night, but you can weigh out all the bits and pieces. But what I like to do is, when you think about the cooking that I do, a lot of it is kind of, I'd call like lazy cooking or cooking that thrives on neglect.
Right.
So what you do is, this is handy because it cooks in the oven for 40 minutes. Preheat your oven to
Oh, right, 180. Okay, so you
this
get
is
it
lovely.
done.
If you was to do this, right, take the dog out for a walk. or go for a run, go for on a
for a
jog or
shower
something
or
like that, or
whatever
whatever
else,
it be.
yeah.
And then when you come down, it's ready for you because the oven's done all the hard work for it. It's done all the
What
heavy
was
lifting.
that stuff you put in at the
Peanut
end?
butter, four
Oh,
tablespoons
peanut butter.
of peanut butter goes in there as well, OK? So what we do is we mix that together, and then all we're going to do is cover this. And as I said, what I've done is I have preheated my oven to 180 degrees. So what we want to do is we want to put that in about a 20 by 20 dish, if it's square or kind of rectangular-ish, and side kind of deepish, because you don't want it to be too shallow. If it's too shallow, what's going to happen is it will just end up kind of like a flapjack, all right?
I presume it doesn't matter if it's crunchy or smooth peanut butter.
No, whatever you want,
Obviously
whatever your
no
preference,
difference
OK?
to
So
that.
what we would do is we pop that into the oven.
And do you need to like open it up so it gets to the bottom,
It will
soaks
sink
to the
down,
bottom?
it would do all its own
We'll
stuff,
do
OK?
all that, will it?
So what we do is we put that in the oven, OK? Just turn that off there. We pop that in the oven, leave it in the oven for 40 minutes is the cooking duration. After about 35 minutes, what we do is we take this and then we would sprinkle that on the top, OK? And then we bang that back in the oven again.
For another 5
5 minutes. And then when we take it out, what you get is you get that. So they look nice and toast and caramelised and stuff like that. So it's nicely springy. It's kind of real rich.
Wow.
And then what you do is you dish up this porridge, like so.
So could I have made any of this the night before? Because
You
I love
could have
a
weighed
bit
it
of
all out.
overnight oats. So could you kind of mix all the wet ingredients together and all the dry
Absolutely, yeah,
ingredients?
because
Would you eat it cold?
You can, do you know what? I made this way. It's nice when you eat it
Stick
warm.
in the oven in the morning.
OK?
Stick in the oven in the morning.
I made this Sunday. OK, I'm going to serve that then with a little
You
bit
made
of
that one Sunday?
And it's
Not this-
okay
not
now
this
to
actual
eat?
one, not this
All
actual
right.
I was going to say, all right.
I made it on Sunday, OK?
Right.
And what I did is, of course, we ate this there, guys. Let's just dig into that there.
Thank you,
We ate
Paul.
this when it was still a bit hot. I ate it a little bit later when it was warm. And it was one of those dishes, the spoon stayed in it, and everyone just kept coming back. And then by the end of the day, by about lunchtime, actually, there was nothing left. So what you get is you get that crunch, you get that peanut, you get the zest of the cherry.
It's like you can't taste the porridge oats at all.
It's
even.
like eating something
Yeah,
like
it's like a
for
cake.
Christmas or something like a cake. Yeah.
It's a breakfast, but also as well, just saying that season is coming up. So stuff like this is handy to put into your culinary toolbox that you can draw out, and you can make that as a nice seasonal breakfast if you've got people coming over.
If you
Just
had
that
people
little,
coming over and he made this for them, they'd
just
be
push the boat
delighted.
out sometimes.
And
the
do you know
cherries are gorgeous.
And the nuts, the caramelised nuts are great as well.
Paul Knapp.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Great stuff. Thank you so much.
You're welcome,
Thank
guys.
you.
Very
Cheers.
tasty.
Now, Deric started climbing the O'Connell Tower at Glasnevin Cemetery earlier on. We're going to find out, has he made it to the top after this quick break? Now, thanks for staying with us to celebrate the relaunch of one of Ireland's most iconic landmarks. Deric is out at Glasnevin Cemetery this
The
morning.
newly revamped O'Connell Tower is now open to the public with stunning views of the capital city.
Deric has climbed 198 steps. So you out of breath, Deric?
Oh, not quite.
Almost there.
Lads,
Come on, a
I'm
few
nearly
more.
there. 196, 197, 100.
There we go.
And 98. We've had to lug all the gear up as well. Take a look at the stunning views here at the O'Connell Circle. You can see the air traffic control tower as well. We're at the very tippy top of O'Connell Tower. Niall Bracken is with us this morning. Niall, I'm out of breath.
Fair play to you for doing it. Fair play to you for doing it. I will say you're not the only one to have done it this week. I had my 83-year-old grandmother just go up on last Wednesday, so she just about did it. I'm surprised she did. She's a stairlift at home, but
Not a bother in her.
She made it.
Anyway, hello to Granny this morning. Tell us about the tower here this Saturday, because it's a wonderful structure.
Fantastic. So you're very welcome to the Tower of Daniel O'Connell. We just were in the tomb there a few minutes ago. This was built as a monument to the man, as in it's his headstone. It was built much after or much later than the other kind of round towers across the country. That does mean it is the tallest. We cover about 180 feet in total. It was built as a memorial. He originally was buried further down the old O'Connell Circle in the cemetery. Around that time, the 1850s and 60s, we wanted to make the Finglas Road the front of the cemetery, so we built the chapel, built the tomb, the tower, and we built the cemetery lodge that we still celebrate from.
Yes, now you're celebrating how many years here in the cemetery?
196 of the actual trust itself.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the cemetery and then, of course, the tower within it, because we've lovely shots on here.
So the thing is now, Daniel O'Connell is our founder. A lot of the time back then, there was these things called penal laws, which restricted particularly Catholic rights in Ireland, but really anybody that wasn't an Anglican across the empire had a lot of trouble. One such trouble was grave ownership or burial. So if you wanted a funeral, you could have a prayer, but you could have half of one, it had to be pre-approved. If you went beyond that, they could shut your funeral down and kick everyone out, which you think they wouldn't do, but they did do twice. It was one time out in Howth, another time in the city centre, caused riots. So O'Connell originally said this was ridiculous, but then he said we might be able to do something with this. He looked across to Europe, to France, to England, and said they're setting up their own private cemeteries. Why don't we try that? They passed a bill through Parliament. They founded the Dublin Cemeteries Committee. That's who I work for. It's DC Trust now, but they've been 196 years in existence, and he would have founded this cemetery.
Okay, so it's privately owned.
Yes, absolutely. So we do get funding for different projects. This would have been helped quite a bit by OPW funding and different restoration projects we've had over the years, but we are privately run, privately owned. We're a charity, we're self-sufficient, so any money we make from the burials or cremations goes back into restoration projects like this.
Tell us about the tower itself then. When was it built?
So this would have been built kind of in the mid-1850s. It would have taken about 100 labourers about 15 months. So they did a good job, they did it very quickly. It was a great way of giving a lot of employment in the post-famine times because a lot of people were very poor. We did think we were going to get a lot of public funding for this actually because we believed that people loved O'Connell. And not to say that they didn't, but it was after the famine, people had nothing. So we did nearly go bankrupt building this thing in the first place, but we're delighted that we did and we're still around today. So it was a good idea.
And what's it made from?
So this is limestone and it's granite. So you'll see there the walls are massively thick and it goes the whole way up. It's mortared as well. It's built nearly like a bunker, which is of course a good thing.
And good thick walls.
Absolutely, yeah, thank God.
They weren't built for mobile phones.
Exactly right.
Daniel O'Connell wasn't in fact interred here when he died. No. He was interred just down the road, in fact.
Yes. So he would have died in Genoa in Italy. They took a long time to get his body back. They interred him in what was then the old O'Connell Circle that was built and ready to go when he was still alive. His admirers were getting buried down there ahead of time to be beside him when he went there, so God loved him, and then he got moved. The idea was that when we were making this the front of the cemetery, we wanted our founder front and centre. So there is then tombs around the circle for other friends and admirers that are still there today.
Take us below then into the crypt because we touched on it earlier on. It's beautifully restored.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. So it's all original Celtic designs. The large circles are from the Book of Kells. Everything else is the Book of Durrow. The inscription on the top of the sarcophagus is meant to be reminiscent of Clonmacnoise. It was repainted there only a few years ago and fully restored. We're actually just looking at getting it touched up at the moment. We only just got a quote there the other day. But of course, as well as his coffin being under the sarcophagus, we have his family in there too. There's 3 sons, 3 daughters, 3 granddaughters, and a great-grandson.
And I believe they had 10 spots. He was allocated 10 spots that they could be buried with him.
12, actually.
Oh, 12,
there's 2 more to go. So there is 2 more O'Connells to go in there at some time in the future. I remember I had a kid on my tour once and he said that he was the next one to go in. And I said, sure you are. And then the teacher, I think, said, oh no, he is. So it's the sort of thing that maybe we'll see him in about 200 years, you know?
Okay. Now, take us back to the 1970s. And in fact, 1971, there was a bomb that rocked this tower.
Oh yeah. So the thing is that there was a biscuit tin left behind. In that was pounds of gelignite, which is a mining explosive. Blast shot up the tower, put a crack in the side of it, which you will see, and it blew out the windows and blew out the doors. We're lucky we have the windows and the doors because we didn't. There was nowhere for the pressure to get out. The top of the tower would have been blown off instead. So for that, the tower was recoverable. It was in a bad state. We had to completely clear out the stairs, redo the tomb, climb up the side of the tower and actually clear out about 30 years of birds only a few years ago. And then the last thing we did in 2018 was rebuild the steps.
Yeah, so it was obviously closed for 40 years to the public. It was reopened in 2018. And since then, of course, you have this fantastic visitor experience. It's probably one of the highest viewing points in the country.
Absolutely. It's amazing up here. Anytime someone comes up to the desk and they're like, why should I do it? And I say, well, there's 3 things. So first of all, it's the newest round tower, so it is the tallest by a good margin because we did cheat. It doesn't matter that you're on a hill up here, and when you look out the window, you can see as far as the coast. You can see Howth Head from there, you can see the sea, you can see the cruise ships coming in and see all over the city. You've got the Botanics next door. You can even see IKEA out the window, which is really cool.
And of course, the experience here is very interactive as well. People are kept entertained as they go up, and you can learn lots en route.
So we did a relaunch launch only this summer, so we've new screens with drone footage all over the cemetery that you'd only be able to see if you were a bird. We also have new panels the whole way up, new lighting. The crypt itself is beautifully relit. It's fantastic. It feels like a completely new experience, even though there's only a few small changes.
Now you can do an audio tour, but you can also do a guided tour.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of different options. We've got maps, we've got audio guides if you like to self-guide. Our big thing though is anytime someone comes in the door, I say, how much time do you have? They said, I'm not under much pressure. I'm saying, do the tour. Because we bring you through the cemetery, bring you to the tomb of Daniel O'Connell. We talk about these huge figures from Irish history. We do Michael Collins, Countess Margaret, Eamon de Valera, Charles Stuart Parnell. I always laugh at people because it's almost like we took everybody and none of the other cemeteries got anyone. But it is a matter though that we bring all the way through. You get an exhibition indoors that tells you about the cemetery itself and people you wouldn't have heard of being buried here, because we've actors, writers and lion tamers, and then you can include a tower climb at the end, and that's the full whack.
That's absolutely incredible. Where can we find out more online?
So we have a website which is dctrust.ie, so you can book all the tickets online. The visitor centre here is open 7 days a week. If anybody's curious, give us a call. We're always at that desk. We'll always pick up the phone.
Do you go up and down the steps all the time yourself?
Yeah. Well, a colleague of mine, when we reopened it, used to race up and down to see who could do it the fastest.
It's a proper workout, right?
Absolutely.
All right, and he's 6'4", so he's kind of like a round tower himself. Anyway, I hope you learned lots here this morning. We're at the very tippy top of O'Connell Tower. It's absolutely incredible. God love Mark, because we have to drag all the gear back down. Back to you in the studio. It's incredible.
Mark.
Clay.
Well, Deric will help him bring the gear back.
Not a chance. He's such a prima donna. It looks class. What a view up there. Amazing to see that it's been reopened again. Now, coming up in the final hour of the programme, we're going to chat to the Belfast solicitor who's represented A-list celebrities, the likes of Britney Spears, Harrison Ford, Sinead O'Connor and many, many more.
Now, whether your preference is eye-catching reds or supple leather, stylist Justine King shows us there's a jacket to suit every style this season.
What sort of leather?
Supple leather.
And with stars like Anne Hathaway and Justin Bieber seen wearing pimple patches, we find out from the skin nerd what all the fuss is about. Back with you shortly on Ireland AM.
Now, lots of texts coming in this morning about a number of topics that we covered, but we were talking about the cap at Dublin Airport next year. It's been announced that 25.2 million is the cap for summer, just for summer. It's a lot of people. In fairness, it's a lot of people.
But the cap is 32 million, so they're obviously thinking the busiest time of the year is the summer. So if they can try and condense the numbers coming in and out at summertime, then it means it coming up to Christmas, because, of course, as Michael Leary talked about, €500 cost to fly home this Christmas.
And then the DAA
They wouldn't have to charge that though, would they? No. Like they could go, it's 100 quid, just not everyone will get home.
It's demand.
Like we also, if you're coming from England, you could come on a ferry.
That's true. But this was Michael O'Leary sort of, doing Michael O'Leary.
That's what he has to do,
Yeah, that's what he has to do.
Indeed.
But we were sort of saying, would you use other airports around the country? And I was sort of saying, I thought if direct flights went into Shannon more, especially from the US, people would just fly direct, do the Ring of Kerry, do Galway, do the Wild Atlantic Way, and then maybe come to Dublin or whatever.
And then have to go back to Shannon again.
Well, yeah, but we'll work your itinerary around it. Anyway, Danielle says, I live in Galway.
You've a real thing against Shannon, don't you?
Oh, yeah, what's
your issue?
About Shannon?
What happened in Shannon?
Just asking you a few questions.
Is it because there's a statue of Paul O'Connell there?
It's because we used to have to fly into Shannon Airport to play against Munster, and it wasn't always that back in the day.
Danielle says, I live in Galway and would fly from Shannon in a heartbeat if I had the chance. We flew from Shannon to Paris for the Olympics. I was standing outside Notre Dame 5 hours after leaving my house. It would be the same, pretty much the same to Dublin. So it's a no-brainer. Put more flights through Shannon.
But I'm sure you can fly from Shannon to Paris.
No, she said she did.
She did.
Oh, yeah. So you would love to get more.
Yeah, just for saying more.
Yeah.
But like a huge amount of 15 of us went away this weekend, and most of them had to travel from Limerick to Dublin
to get a flight.
To get a flight, yeah.
Right.
You know?
It's frustrating. Yeah, Monica said...
Love to go to Shannon, obviously, to fly.
Oh, yeah. 100%. We try to do flights from Shannon.
Open up Waterford Airport. I mean, we've so many airports in this small country. Do you know what I mean? We don't need all these airports, really. Like, Do you know what I mean? It's a 2-hour drive to Dublin Airport. Most other countries, you have to drive
Oh, no, I
hours to
understand
get
that.
to an airport.
I didn't even know we had an airport in Waterford.
Yeah, I think the runway's not big enough for a lot of the big planes to go into it.
Well, then why did we build it?
For smaller planes? I don't know.
Why do we do a lot of things in this country?
Anyway,
How's
yeah.
that children's hospital coming along?
Thanks very much for those. So they have a 25 million coming into Dublin Airport next summer. Thank you for sending in those texts. Now, coming up next, we're going to talk to the libel lawyer Paul Tweed about the potential risks celebrities face from social media and AI platforms.
Actually, everyone, not just celebrities.
Everybody.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
After the break.
Hello, welcome back to Ireland AM. Our next guest has represented some of the world's most high-profile celebrities, from Britney Spears to Harrison Ford.
To many, many more. Here to talk about how a Belfast man became the go-to lawyer for Hollywood's elite is lawyer himself, Paul Tweed. Good morning.
Good morning.
To you,
Good morning, Paul.
It's amazing to have you here in studio with us. We're, of course, talking about your new book, From Hollywood to Hollywood. Yeah. That's Hollywood counted down, which you've come from this morning, to Hollywood over in LA. The life of an international libel lawyer to the rich and famous. Tell us how you became the lawyer to these mega stars all over the world.
Well, it was probably down to luck more than anything else, or fate, or whatever you want to call it. I started off as a trainee lawyer back in the late 1970s. And when my first day in the office, I was sharing an office with 2 other trainees. And I thought, I'm not going to be doing this for too much longer. So I stuck it out for a couple of weeks. And me being the optimistic idiot, as you might call me, I decided, right, I'm going to start applying for other jobs. So I just got the Times. On a Tuesday, they advertised jobs. So I thought 2 weeks in, I applied to be governor of the Solomon Islands. Didn't get that. Then I applied to be an IP lawyer with distillers. I didn't even know what IP meant then, but I didn't get that. Then I applied for a job as a corporate lawyer in the Cayman Islands. Now, just bear in mind, I'm sort of just 2 weeks into law. And believe it or not, Mr. Walker of W.S. Walker, a well-known firm at the time in the Caymans, offered me an interview in London. I couldn't believe it. It was a free holiday for me. Paid for the trip over, and I went over, had lunch with him to interview me. I actually foolishly thought that I was maybe in with a chance, but he said, look, Mr. Tweed, I just got you over because I couldn't believe your brass neck. I couldn't believe that anyone would have put an application. There must be something else that, you haven't told me. And I said, no, there's not. But with great crack over lunch. And he sent me back, but I didn't get that job either. Then, mid-1980s, Paul McCartney, who was a well-known senior counsel of the day, was accused of, by the Sunday World, of fighting over the last chocolate eclair in a Hollywood cake shop. That's Hollywood, County Down.
Yeah.
And he was accused of fighting with another senior lawyer, Des Bowl. And most people regarded this as quite a trivial claim, but anyway, they were sued for libel. For lawyers of at that level, I mean, they have to have their credibility. And when people say things like, here comes Mr. McCartney, quick, hide your buns, it can be sometimes undermining, and it's difficult to maybe understand in the context that we are talking today. Fought it before a Belfast jury. Was viciously fought fight for 1.5 weeks, and they were awarded £50,000 each. And the Sunday World quite sensibly decided not to appeal it, and that judgment stood. So that was my first one, 1986.
That was libel.
Libel. That was defamation case, undermining the reputation, and it was the right result. But you're probably thinking, rolling your eyes, I can feel it.
No.
But anyway, anyway, it started me off in a career because I got a good adrenaline push. It was much better than doing the type of contractual work and defence litigation I was doing at the time. This gave me a buzz.
Yeah.
Then came Barney Eastwood and Barry McGuigan, and it turned out to be one of the biggest libel actions in Irish legal history, 5.5 weeks, where the Barry McGuigan, world featherweight champion, lost his title in the heat of Las Vegas and blamed his manager. I acted for his manager. We sued him, and it was an award of $450,000 in 1992.
Huge story at the time.
Yeah. And we Barney and I had travelled to the United States to interview witnesses from sparring partners, fight referee, commentators, and we were meeting quite a few well-known people in the boxing world. And that led on to a couple of cases I got for American attorneys in the 1990s. Then I had quite a very well-known case for Liam Neeson, late 90s, and that again got quite a lot of publicity for me.
That was about them coming, a paper said they were coming out of a divorce lawyer.
Exactly,
but
it was wrong, mistaken identity.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And he donated his winnings to the victims of the Omagh
Your
bomb.
fund, correct, that's
Wasn't
right.
it?
Absolutely,
Wow.
absolutely in full. And then we sort of moved on after that. I mean, Barney Eastwood taught me the value of publicity. I was a very shy Belfast boy at the time, and I remember whenever the photographers were coming in, he would grab me by the arm and pull me in front of the cameras and basically, literally, physically force me to be there and be photographed. And I realised free publicity for me and my clients, and most of my clients, particularly if they're maybe a Hollywood A-lister, they want the record set straight as quickly as possible. It's not money they're looking for. They want it corrected right away. And so the fact that they're taking legal action, and if that is publicised in the media, that's getting you halfway there so far as they're concerned. Okay. Then in 2006, Britney Spears came to me. There was allegations that her marriage to Kevin Federline had broken down. And this was a one-off because National Enquirer had never apologised in their 80-year history up to then. But they had made the mistake of opening a European edition at that just shortly before that, and we were able to take action against them in Ireland. And they quickly settled. They saw what was happening. They apologised, and then I watched the apology go from Ireland right across Europe, Far East, into Australia, and then back into LA where I wanted it. And I couldn't believe it in 7 seconds, 7 or 8 seconds.
Done.
Wow.
So after that, the Hollywood A-listers came in like Triffids, and, you know, the rest moved on until the social media giants appeared.
Because I want to talk to them, but we're talk about them because we are obviously living in this world, and libel laws in Ireland and the UK are kind of different to what they are in America because of amendments. But one of the biggest cases at the moment, and you actually talk about it in your book, is Colleen Rooney and Rebecca Vardy. Yeah. And they've just gone back into court yesterday. Rebecca Vardy is suing over the legal expenses, which is 1.8 million that she's liable for in relation to Colleen Rooney's lawyers, her lawyers. What do you make of what's happening with all that?
The costs in London are eye-watering. And, you know, the reason for that is the libel laws are, in my opinion, more complex than they should be, because the more complex the law is, the more you need lawyers to fight and argue as to what that complexity means. And that means legal costs rise. I mean, we had a quote from, I was acting for an Irish guy in London relatively recently. And the other side, you have to estimate your costs in England in advance. They come up with an estimate of just under 3 million for one side's costs for defending a defamation case. You know,
and that's what you talk about in your book. You kind of say, if you were going to take a libel case, be careful, make sure. And you kind of said about Colleen Rooney and Rebecca Vardy, you know, that was played out in the court in front of everybody else, but actually the costs were extortionate. Yeah. We have to talk about what's going on with artificial intelligence and the big tech companies, because you are one of the few lawyers that is trying to take the battle to them, because at the minute they have a free hand.
It's an uphill battle. I mean, I would compare it to big tobacco back, 30 years ago. Big tech are in exactly the same position. Yeah. I mean, you've got a scenario where you have screen addiction, you have fake ads, you have disinformation, you have people, basically driven to suicide from what they're saying online. And, for instance, I mean, I've got my two youngest are still teenagers, and I always say to them, why do you call your mobile devices by the same name? Both call their mobile screens Dad. Yes, Dad. No, Dad. We'll get there soon, Dad. They don't even do a variation.
It's an addiction.
But it is addiction. And if you go into a restaurant now, you see, everyone's got their face on the screen, particularly younger ones, and that is going to be a big problem later on.
But we've seen what's happened is there were some high-profile cases here for, like, Miriam McCallan. We've heard that the Taoiseach, Micheál Martin, talk about his face was used on one of these Bitcoin scams. Yeah. He's the Taoiseach. He couldn't get a meeting with the giants that were hosting these ads, and it was a scam. Yeah. What hope does someone have if they're at home and their face is on a scam? Like it happened to Miriam McCallan as well, and
it happened for me as well.
It happened to
my
you.
face was used as well to say that I'd said something on the show, which people would probably believe. Yeah. But at the same time, how am I meant to contact a big tech company like this to get them to take it down?
Yeah. It is a massive problem, and there's no easy or overnight answer for anyone. No matter what your profile is, I mean, your personality has a significant value. It draws people in, and if they're advertising a product, which is normally what they're doing, it's either Bitcoin or, makeup or something like that there, and it is big, big business. And the difficulty you have is that, in my view anyway, there is or should be algorithms to deal with this promptly and quickly whenever it's posted. I mean, it should never see the light of day, but it keeps going on. And what happens is the platforms tend to take a view initially, this is not our problem. We're not a publisher. We're just a platform. We are not
But they're taking payment for these.
They are taking payment, and they're also, if before social media came to the fore, this problem wasn't there.
No.
So therefore, like, that is evidence enough in terms of accountability. Like, they have to be responsible for
Is it up to
this.
the government then? Can the government, are they powerful enough to try and take on these tech companies, or is it up to people like yourself to try and fight that fight?
At this moment in time, we're left to do it on an ad hoc basis. It's basically like legal snipers. We really have to be. We have to, pick a certain case, decide if that's one we can win, and we have to be absolutely satisfied we have a good case, because most people do not have the financial backing to take them on.
Yeah.
And invariably, what happens is, you'll challenge them. You go to a lawyer. If a lawyer knows what they're doing, gets them cornered to a degree, and then they'll take it down.
Yeah.
And that's it. We've taken it down. But the damage is caused, damage is caused in a matter of hours in the online world we're living in at the moment. We're not talking days or weeks, which it takes for them to take the stuff down. And then people then after that, they say, well, look, my clients come in and say, well, can you guarantee that, I'm going to win this case? I can never give a guarantee, but it was like big tobacco back in the day. The financial might, most of them have got, bigger financial war chests than any government.
Yeah.
You also have a situation where, particularly here in Ireland, where they're big employers, they're major contributors to the economy, and you sort of have to get the impression there's no real enthusiasm to get these, either hate speech, online harm legislation into place in a way that's going to be effective, because even with the law behind you, you still have to deal with each individual case.
Fascinating.
It is really fascinating, because I just think that this can happen to anyone. Anyone sitting at home watching right now, they could use your face in something that's fake. And I know that you're going to make this the rest of your career's work to kind of fight these guys. It's fascinating. So it's from Hollywood to Hollywood. My life as an international libel lawyer to the rich and famous.
And
Paul Tweed.
I just think, Paul, what you're saying is about the next generation of lawyers, because who knows the battle that they're going to have in front of them, but they could be the only ones who are going to stop this. Paul, pleasure to have you in with us this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back. We're at that time of the year when...
What is it, Mern? What time is it?
When mornings start to get a little bit colder.
Oh, is that the time of year?
That's it.
Now, here to show us how to stay warm and fashionable at that time of year is stylist Justine King. Good morning to you, Justine.
Good morning.
So it's all about the jacket and the nice jacket.
Yes, the nice jacket from the catwalks and the celebrities today.
Okay. Lovely. We're going to take our first look at Yumiko.
But
yes.
It's all inspired, is it?
Inspired.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll start off with the faux fur trend that we saw on the catwalks.
Trend, yeah.
So we're seeing from Chloe, from Givenchy, from Saint Laurent, and it's those fabulous kind of statement faux furs.
Look at
these.
That.
Isn't that stunning?
Wow.
That's that Chloe one there. So it's that slightly oversized and about having a bit of fun with your faux fur. So this fabulous look here is from Irish brand KC Dresses. And I mean, this coat, you would nearly think to feel it as well that it was real fur, but I can assure you it is faux fur, and it's that kind of shaggy look, and it has that slightly kind of grey animal print going through it as well, and then it's an off-white. So it's going to kind of match everything in your wardrobe. It's also not going to show up dirt very easily, which I like. So
very nice.
Ones.
I try these on every year, and I've never bought one, and I love it.
It's so fab, isn't it? It's your real party jacket. But again, you could totally dress that down if you're kind of glam in your daytime. Wear something simpler underneath. We've layered it with this kind of gorgeous tonal silver.
Loving the top.
Isn't it fab? It's real kind of retro. I think kind of Studio 54 vibes here.
Loving
Stunning.
that.
So the beautiful pussy bow blouse, and then that kind of gunmetal silver with the slight lurex as she moves in the light as well. So that even worn with all black would be fabulous as well. You could completely tone that down.
But with the slip skirt, it's lovely.
Yes, I mean, I love these midi skirts. They're in kind of every season, and they're so comfortable to wear. They've got the elasticated waist. Again, easy to dress up and down. Like I'd wear mine with boots and a polo neck, say, during the day as well. But this one in that kind of muted silver is a really nice way to do it kind of for a party wear look.
And then with the shoes, they look sensible, and then they're just a bit of fun on the heel.
A bit of fun on the heel. So these are from Green's Shoes. So they have stores in Donegal, in Limerick and Galway. And they're from the Una Healy collection. They have the chunky block heel and the little bit of diamante detailing. And they do also have those in nude and in black as well. But they are kind of a sensible party shoe, I would say.
I could just see Una out in them now. That's a gorgeous look, isn't
it? And then we're keeping it silver with the jewellery here. So we'll start with those earrings. They're from Corona Silver. And I love the way they're the kind of longer line pendant, and then they have the beautiful freshwater pearl kind of at the end. So they're super classic. You kind of wear them, you know, every year. And then we've gone silver again in our bangle here.
Bangle there,
so it's a rope kind of bangle, and then it has the little gold clasp as well on that too. So
That's a lovely
metallic.
look.
Beautiful, Yumiko. Thank you so much. That's gorgeous.
Shimmering. She's shimmering as she
It's doing
walks
silver
on.
without OTT. It's kind of that muted silver. It's a nice party look.
So our second look, inspired by...
Yeah, the maxi coat trend. So Max Mara is definitely kind of always ruling the catwalk when it comes to that kind of oversized brown maxi coat. I love this one because it's kind of a throw on and go. You could wear it over.
They're gorgeous.
They're easy, aren't they? And kind of any shape and size could be wearing these kind of maxi style coats. So this one is without the Max Mara price tag. It's from Irish brand On Trend. And it is that kind of camel coat. It's available in a small to a large, so you could go that little bit oversized and size up if you wanted to. It's got the pockets and it is fully lined. So
the camel coat will never go out of fashion, will it?
Yeah.
It always turns up.
Always, and you can kind of wear it with everything. We've done tonal, you know, camel on camel on camel here, but with black, it's fabulous too. It does really go with everything.
But the tonal look is so lovely.
It's nice, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of just caramel head to toe. So the cardigan here, it's got a little surprise puff sleeve as well. The nice kind of contrast,
so cute.
Isn't it? Like I think even for workwear that could be gorgeous. You can get it in black as well. You can actually get nearly this whole look in black from On Trend if you don't like the camel. And then the pearl little buttons going through it as well, and then that little ruche sleeve. It's
Beautiful.
really pretty little top.
Very lovely.
The trousers.
Yeah, the trousers are this fab kind of straight leg in the leatherette effect. Then they have the little cuffed end on them as well.
Is lovely on
yeah, because we were seeing that with the maxi coat at Gucci. They did the kind of shorter trouser as well, so it's not feeling like everything has to be the same length, which we can sometimes do with our coat. You can go for that little bit shorter in your trouser. And as I say, these do come in black as well. Just a nice, comfortable, high-waisted leatherette trouser.
The little ankle boots.
Great.
Yeah, the boots are cute. So showing that little bit of ankle. They're by the brand Kate Appleby at Greens. They're a nice price point as well for those. And they have then the little gold detail on the side. And again, they do come in black.
I'm loving the jewellery.
Yeah, so we're keeping the kind of pearl effect that we're seeing in the cardigan through the jewellery. So these kind of oversized hoops, and then they have the Majorica pearls going through those, and then picking up on that pearl in this fabulous necklace. This is 24 carat gold plated, and then the shell pearl. That does have matching earrings. I just thought for the daytime it might be
it's very striking. Marwa, thank you so much.
Lovely little top, isn't it?
It is. Look, 3, what's this is inspired by?
So red was one of the colours dominating the catwalk, and as they say, if it's dominating the coats, it dominates the catwalk. That's their kind of designer spin on it. So we saw this at Balenciaga. That's the Balenciaga puffer you're seeing there. Stella McCartney, Ferrari, and this beautiful eye-catching red head to toe
red carpet look.
Isn't it stunning? It's so editorial.
This is not a coat, right?
This is your jacket, your editorial piece. You could wear this over, you know, a dress or over a skirt too, but it does have the matching trousers.
So it is like a coat. It's
a dress coat, I'm calling it. Yeah, you could wear it over absolutely anything, but then it is your look. I mean, it's absolutely fabulous. It's your head turner, your occasion wear piece.
Yes.
You're celebrating, you know, a big birthday, or you have your New Year's Eve ball, or I was actually saying, wouldn't this be an amazing mother of the bride or mother of the groom for a winter wedding?
But there's a zip down the back.
There's a zip down the back.
So you kind of you get into it over your head. It doesn't open.
It opens. The bow does open.
The bow opens, but it's also a zip. You got to put your hands into it.
Yes.
Okay.
And then it has that beautiful drape front, and then it's that jersey fabric. So it is actually really flattering, that jersey fabric, to where it just hangs so beautifully. And then they are matching, but they are sold separately. So if you didn't want to buy the trousers,
you could mix them up.
Yeah, you could mix it up or wear it. Even wearing it over black or something, you wouldn't have to do the tonal red head to toe. The trousers then at the waistband have that kind of crepe effect that you're seeing in the bow as well. So it all goes together so beautifully. Lovely. And then they're just that straight kind of cut in those too.
Nice. And then keeping that party look and red carpet look, these shoes.
Yeah, so the beautiful diamante shoes. I mean, these are a great buy because you'd wear them year after year. They've got the diamante kind of crossover detail at the front, and then they're in the gold, but they also have them in silver and in rose. They're kind of your classic party shoe.
And then the jewellery.
Yeah, so we're keeping the red into those cat's eye gemstone. They're really beautiful kind of ruby gemstone there. They come in a smaller size as well, but I thought we're kind of going dramatic with this whole look. They're stunning, aren't they? And then the cuff here, this is a little bit different. It's the red leather cuff, with the beautiful gold kind of closure. So it's kind of a modern piece of jewellery.
Sarah, you're like Red Riding Hood for 2024.
I know.
She's off to Apple Green now for a sausage sandwich and that. Could you imagine?
Definitely our head turner of a look for,
It's like
for the
when Gwyneth
catwalk.
Paltrow wore the cape, though. That's fantastic.
I know.
Definitely
You'd be standing out your occasion wear.
What's our style
So
inspiration
our
for look
final
4?
piece is what we're calling the new leather jacket, and this is a Saint Laurent jacket. It's actually from Spring Summer 25, but the celebrities are already wearing it.
This is a
Yes.
look everywhere.
And it's the zip up, slightly oversized, slightly cropped Saint Laurent jacket that we're seeing there. Gigi, Bella Hadid, they're all wearing it. This is the leatherette version, because I firmly believe if it's a trend piece like this, if it's not going to be in next year or the year after, Saint Laurent, you're talking a couple of grand. The leatherette piece, you're getting the look, but you're getting it for that little bit less. And this one is from On Trend. Now, I put your Miko in the medium to large because we wanted that oversized look. And they do have it in a small to medium as well for a little bit more fitted. But just like the Saint Laurent one, it has the zip down the front, it's the slightly cropped, and then there's 2 pockets to the front. So that's what we're calling the new leather for this year.
Yeah, like a shirt, different sort of a shirt.
So
Lovely.
just like the celebrities, we've layered it over all black. They're kind of doing it on the runway as well. It was over corporate wear. They were kind of toughening up kind of a corporate look.
Okay.
So we've gone for all black. The trousers were on here. So there's beautiful just satin trousers, easy to wear, little pockets at the front. And then that top has the little shoulder detail. And then the ruching across the front makes it a very flattering shape on it.
Gorgeous. There are some sparkly boots, though, to bring it up a notch.
Yes, so we're going for our little bit of bling here in the boots. But I love that it's black sequin, so you don't notice them straight away. It's just as she moves in the light, that little bit of sequin. They'd be fab with a party dress as well, or your black tights, just poking out there under the wide leg trousers. They look really fabulous.
The jewellery.
Yeah, they're loving the jewellery.
Yeah, so then we have our gorgeous earrings here. So these are Swarovski crystal gold-plated earrings. So they've got that beautiful green stone. I think it's important to have a bit of colour in your jewellery when you're going for the head-to-toe black look. So then the necklace as well is also bringing in that beautiful Swarovski crystal and that kind of snake effect. It's really stunning.
That is class.
Yeah, it is
Like,
gorgeous,
that's
isn't it?
really stand out. You'd have it for years, sort of a thing, and you'd bring it out with certain things.
Exactly, and with any kind of colour, just
Yeah,
bring out
very
that
nice.
beautiful.
Good, isn't
Looks
it?
gorgeous this morning.
Yes. We
Really
loved those.
gorgeous,
Thank you
yeah.
so much,
Thank
as
you so
always.
much for that,
King,
Justine.
looking fantastic.
Now, if
So
you've got
good.
a teenager who's self-conscious about their hormonal skin or looking after a great all-rounder serum for your makeup, stay with us because the Skin Nerd is going to answer all your
She's
questions.
shimmying behind the
shimmying
camera.
over
She's
there.
like this.
We'll see
Within
you
a
in few
minute.
minutes. Thanks for joining us now from Skincare Solutions to debunking pimple patches. Our viewers have a lot of beauty dilemmas they want solved now.
Absolutely, and the woman who does the homework for us is, of course, the skin nerd, Jennifer Rock, who is just back from her honeymoon.
Yay!
Yourself and Jill. You've been a wife for how long now?
Nearly 4 weeks.
Nearly 4 weeks.
Look at
Brand
the glow.
spanking new.
I think we can see the brides. I think we've got a bit. Look at you.
them.
Oh my God,
Isn't that
you're
just
so beautiful.
We had
How
the
are you
most
feeling?
amazing time. Honestly, I can't speak fully on behalf of Jill, but as a married couple, I believe I can now. I've just had the most amazing month of my entire life. We've just laughed. We've just surrounded ourselves with the most beautiful people, all our key people, and it's just been pretty magic. So I feel very grateful.
So happy
We're
for
so
you.
happy.
Thank you.
But welcome home because we've got
Welcome
lots
home.
of
Let's go.
Lots of questions. First up, Rebecca. She asked, what serum is an all-rounder for under-eye makeup and makes it look well, sits well, but actually has some benefits too? So that's a good one.
It's a really good question. So skincare and makeup are starting to become almost like a hybrid concept now. They're not exclusive. So you can, like with this, and this is one of the first brands I ever trained with, which is Bare Minerals. I feel like it's the original mineral skincare infused goodness makeup brand. So what they have is an amazing serum. I have it on this morning, so can you tell by my glow?
Yeah.
But this is their Bare Minerals Skin Longevity Long Life Herb Serum. So the herb is actually from Japan, and it's all about regenerating the skin, the texture, the smoothness, the clarity. There's antioxidants in there with the California poppy. There's niacinamide, which I'm
We
a
love all
huge
this.
fan of.
We love it.
We
Vitamin
love it.
B3. Did you miss me?
I'll tell
Vitamin
you.
B3. But it helps strengthen the barrier. So essentially, if you've got scarring or you've got like pigmentation or any irritation, it does generally actually help the
Help
skin
it bring it
whilst it's on. And then you can put your makeup on over it, and it'll actually adhere well, look well, be dewy. So aesthetically, it appeases the eye, but from a skin's perspective, perspective, this particular product really
using
does.
how often?
It's like a powerhouse serum. Every single morning. Every single morning.
Does it work as a primer a little
Yeah, you can feel the texture. It is generally actually a beautiful primer. Yeah, 100%.
I can actually feel the stickiness
but
there.
It strengthens the barrier by 45%, and unfortunately a lot of makeup can actually cause irritation to the barrier, so the whole premise is about getting good ingredients onto the skin to form that beautiful base as your makeup.
Beautiful. Bare minerals there. Our second question. Anne-Marie reached out about her 11-year-old's hormonal skin. She's looking for advice. Her daughter is quite self-conscious about it. What can she do to help?
Look, it's a hard stage of life, it is, and it's hard when you get spots at any stage. So something that's been in the medical world for quite a long time is something called hydrocolloidal patches. So you often would have had it done or had it placed on after you would have had a wound. I had a surgery last year and I would have put hydrocolloidal patches on to help my skin knit together. So then it's been brought into the skincare sector. Miriam's face looks really confused, but bear with.
Yeah.
So essentially what hydrocolloid will do, if you hold up the little patches there, the purple one at the front.
This is the ones here.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
so
is that them there?
Essentially the little, so I have it on my face here now. So essentially what it does is it absorbs the fluid and it's really anti-inflammatory. But if I look to the camera, you can't, you can literally see it just here. But like if I was on a Zoom call now, you'd absolutely notice nothing. I really had to point it out to you guys to see that it was on my face. So this is something you can use throughout the day, ideally with no makeup on, morning or evening. You put it on and within 4 hours it has a huge impact. So what is it? It's basically, you can see the little card there. They've lots of them inside. It's salicylic acid. So that's what's doused in those little patches. There's centella asica in there and there's willow herb. So essentially it's protecting you from actually picking a spot, which is a huge piece within skincare. But whilst it's on for those 4 hours, you're actually going to see a huge difference. It helps shrinks the spot, soothes the spot, and it helps protect you against picking. So it's actually a very clever way for localizing spots. So in this question for the 11-year-old, this is something that they could just put onto that particular area, but indeed for any age, it really does work. It's invisible, it's discreet, it's affordable. You can put on when you feel that spot coming through, when you have the spot, and as it's healing. So it's an all-rounder.
Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things, she's always wearing ones that you can see.
Yeah, so then there's a trendy TikTok. Exactly, it's a trendy TikTok piece. So this is a Boots product, it's the same concept. It has the salicylic acid in it as well. But essentially, instead of it being discreet, you're actually loudly, proudly saying, I've got a spot, I'm tackling it, here I am. So it's definitely a TikTok or Instagram type piece. So it just depends on the person.
Sorry, Justin Bieber going around wearing them, like going, here, look, I've spots. Why would you not just wear the invisible ones?
So personal preference, I probably would opt for the invisible ones so that I can use it throughout the day. And then this is if you're more trendy, Alan. But the same premise applies. The key ingredient is within that. So rather than leaning on your skincare,
look, I have a spot.
Yeah, morning and evening, this just means that you can actually tackle the spots throughout the day.
Anne-Marie reached out as well, and she said, Anne is 60, is it? Just recently went through chemo and is finding her skin quite dry, and as a result, her foundation isn't staying on well. Any advice? Sorry about that, Anne. Hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, and it's obviously completely a tough time, and unfortunately your skin as part and parcel of treatment can actually be quite visible as to how dry and irritated it can be. And so I thought, why don't we just go back to basics? So whether it's someone that's going through chemo or someone that's just really finding their skin through this transitional weather period, their skin is so dry. This brand, Cetaphil, when I was doing my original days touring around clinics, I always noticed that dermatologists and pharmacists and anyone in the medical sphere always recommended this brand. So this is a cleanser. The size of it has to be noted because it's so affordable for such a large size. But for anyone that has dry, tight, irritated, cracked, particularly dry skin, as I said, it's clinically proven to actually help provide the skin with 48 hours hydration. So it is a cleanser. You pump it into the palm of the hand, cleanse all over. We always say nipples up. Really big bottle, thorough removal, and it really does help the natural moisturiser to stay within the skin. There's niacinamide, glycerine, panthenol in there, and it can be used on the face and the body.
Absolutely.
So particularly for this person going through chemo, it's something they can have in the shower.
And really, as Jen said, back to basics and mind your skin, and we're so sorry, and we hope you feel better soon. Aoife was in touch. She had an allergic reaction to eye cream she used, was wondering, is there an option for sensitive eyes so it doesn't happen again?
Yeah, so look, with sensitivity for eye products, I love them, but they tend to have an awful lot of active ingredients inside it. So what I would opt for someone to do is actually stop at the eye cream and just get a really decent night cream. So this is why I brought this into the equation. This is Boots Collagen Night Cream. Again, really affordable. It's delicate. It's a beautiful night cream. If you feel it, it just has a beautiful flow to it. There's bucuchiol in there, which is like a plant alternative to retinol or to vitamin A. So it's ideal, so it won't cause irritation, suitable all over, and ideal around the eye as well.
And around the eye, so just dot it. You don't need a separate eye cream.
You don't have to have it, particularly if you've been sensitive in the past.
And finally, very quickly, Jane, she's conscious of the colder weather, wants to keep her skin hydrated, what are you recommending?
You guys smell this in a minute, but yeah, essentially this is a product from two Irish beautiful humans. This is Susan Fox. It's a beautiful product. It's Ailu Moments. It's all about taking that time for yourself. It's locked full of hydration, but it's actual ingredients and natural together. There's squalene in it, so when I tell you that it hydrates and it's like a slip of a drench of moisture for the skin, that's what this is.
The skin nerd, Jennifer Rock, thank you so much and welcome back. Happy wedding.
Thank
yes.
you so
See you,
much.
Jen.
Now.
There you go. Coming up tomorrow, Celia Ahern is going to be here. Very good. Looking forward to that.
And Catherine Thomas is going to be here. So busy old show tomorrow. Make sure you join us. We'll see you then.
Have a great day. Love the star.
Oh, yeah. Where is it? Still there?
Right there.